Let's look at the physiological effects of alcohol, or to put it another way, how the human body and brain reacts when we put alcohol into it. To do this, we firstly need to have a basic understanding of how the human brain works. The brain has its own store of naturally occurring drugs and hormones that it releases at exactly the right times and in exactly the right quantities to keep us functioning efficiently. There are many different types of these drugs and hormones, but to make things simple, we're going to divide them into two main categories: stimulants and depressants. Stimulants are the ones that wake us up and increase our heart rate. Small amounts of these are released into our system every morning to make us feel awake and ready to face the day. Larger amounts of these are released into our system if we are afraid or sense a threat. The increased heart rate and increased level of alertness allows us to conjure a physical response to the threat, usually either to fight or run away. Depressants, on the other hand, calm us down and make us feel relaxed. These are usually released into our system when activity stops and when we are getting ready to sleep. Now, the human brain is an incredibly complicated and intricate organ, and it seeks to maintain what is known as homeostasis, which is essentially a delicate balance between all the naturally occurring drugs and hormones. When this balance is correct, we feel mentally resilient and confident. Alcohol is a very powerful depressant, and when I use the term depressant, I'm using its chemical sense, meaning something which depresses or inhibits nerve activity. This is why we generally feel more relaxed and calmer after taking a drink. The problem is that when we introduce this powerful depressant, it upsets the brain's delicate internal balance. The brain seeks to counter the chemical depressant effects of the alcohol by releasing more of its own naturally occurring stimulants. The problem comes in when the alcohol is eventually processed and removed from our system, but the excess stimulants remain. At this point, we feel anxious and nervous and are unable to sleep. This is why many drinkers find that even small amounts of alcohol will result in them waking up in the early hours of the morning, unable to go back to sleep. The period when the alcohol has been processed and the stimulants that have been released to counter it still remain is the withdrawal period. It is a time when we feel anxious and out of sorts. So whilst we may initially take a drink to make us feel calm and relaxed, the result is actually to leave us feeling more anxious and uptight than we did previously. It also prevents us from getting a good night's sleep. However, the story doesn't end here. The human brain is incredibly adaptive. When, as youngsters, we take our very first drink, our brain's supply of stimulants that are required to counter the depressive effects of the alcohol are very soon used up, and the alcohol quickly overwhelms us. The practical upshot of this is when we first start drinking, we can only drink a very small amount. However, the brain soon starts producing more and more of these stimulants as they are regularly used up. This has three effects. The first is that we can handle more drinks. The second is that we need more drinks to get the same feeling of relaxation. These 2 points are essentially what building up a tolerance to alcohol actually is. The third and final effect, of course, is that the withdrawal gets progressively worse. When we first start drinking, we may only be able to have 2 or 3 drinks before the brain's supply of stimulants is exhausted. So when the alcohol wears off, we have an amount of stimulants able to counter 2 or 3 drinks, leaving us feeling anxious and out of sorts. However, in a few years' time, we may be able to comfortably drink 7 or 8 drinks. But of course, what this means is that when the alcohol is processed, we then have an amount of stimulants able to counter 7 or 8 drinks, leaving us feeling anxious and out of sorts. Consequently, we feel far more anxious and far more out of sorts. The more we drink, the more anxious and out of sorts we feel afterwards, and this can lead to full-blown depression. Of course, if, during the withdrawal period, we then drink any alcohol, we then counter the excess stimulants, remove the anxiety, and return to a far closer approximation of homeostasis or internal balance. We also anaesthetise to some degree the ever-increasing feeling of tiredness. The overall result is that we feel more relaxed, more able to cope and more in control. This isn't an actual gain from drinking, it is just alcohol partially relieving an imbalance that it has previously caused. Whether you want to quit, reduce, maintain, or even if you are happy to increase your alcohol intake, you firstly need to understand alcohol fully. Understanding is the key to controlling alcohol and ensuring that it doesn't control you. For more information on alcohol and how it affects human beings on both a physiological and psychological level, please go to www.alcoholexplained.com. Thanks for watching. I hope this has been useful.